Um, he we had this friend that had a whole put Facebook Marketplace ad.
I know.
Oh, she said it came on for a split second,
All
then
by
then went
himself.
off again.
It's on now.
And it was great blessing. He made a lot of money. He showed that he could be proactive and very independent and deal with the customers. He was delivering wood all over the place in this little trailer. And he would get stuck and he would have to deliver like by OHSU on these crazy roads and back that trailer, and he did it. And so that made me feel like, okay, the mission too. Well, let me get to the mission. So he is serving in Atlanta, Georgia, and he said, so I was just so grateful he got called in the States. He has a lot of severe asthma, and he needs to be by an ER. And so thankfully he got called to the States. So that was really happy. But before he got his call, he said, I just don't want to go anywhere hot. So of course, that's pretty much setting yourself up right there. But interestingly enough, I think Dallas was at his mission call. He literally said right before he opened his call, he said, I think Georgia. Sure enough, there it was. So I really do think he had the feeling that that was where he was to be. So of course, Georgia is very kitty corner from us, all the way on the other side. And so it's a pretty different place. He's experienced lots of different kinds of people, different culture. Food hasn't been as different as he thought it might be so far. His first area was in a really tiny place called Cedartown, in the very edge of the mission, right by Alabama. And I got a text a couple days in after he'd gotten there, maybe it was his first day even, from a member. This is the best thing ever for missionary moms to get those texts. And said, I got your son here and I'm feeding him Southern barbecue. And I was just so happy. And she said there's about 400 Baptist churches in the area. And so, it's a little tough here. But it actually wasn't, he did quite a bit of teaching. They stayed busy there. And it was slow, though. It was very slow, Southern type of place. Lots of thick, thick accent, there. And he said, I didn't think there were places in the South that were still so Southy. But that was definitely one of them. And so he had a good experience there, and I could tell from his emails, he started off pretty silly. Luke is a very silly kid. Um, he listened to a lot of John Hideaway and Hank Smith when he was going to sleep every night for years, and I think he just picked up on all this humor. Um, but I was looking over his emails and I see, he started off his first email with the subject of, would you rather be able to have lighters in your fingers or water fountains in your toes? And if you know Luke, he loved would you rather. But, over time, I'm seeing a little more maturity. Um, so we started off in that Cedar Town, and um, then his next area was a suburb of Atlanta. So a lot more people, um, a lot of teaching opportunities, and they get 5 to 8 referrals every day. These are referrals that a lot of people, they go online and they say they want to learn more, right? He finds that a lot of them are not really somebody who's truly interested, but it still gives them a lot of people to talk to from that. And then just walking around, they talk to a lot of people that are interested, and they have really lots of teaching opportunities every day. So that's been really great because you just wonder in the South, is there it's Bible Belt, all that, but there's actually been a lot of teaching and baptizing going on. In fact, the ward that he just got transferred. We don't know where he is yet, but we did hear that he got transferred. That ward right outside of Atlanta had 6 sets of missionaries, and they baptized so much that the ward said you can only baptize twice a month. We got to concentrate the baptism. So that's pretty exciting to see that work going on. Um, so there's a lot of missionaries from all over. I think because Atlanta's pretty international, um, and so his last companion, it was from Chile. He's There's been a lot of missionaries in his district, so forth from other countries, and um, so I think that's reflective of the people they're teaching there in Atlanta. I'll just read you a few little bits from some of his emails. He can be very random. So he's very food motivated. I really tried to get him to cook a lot before his mission. He had plenty of time. He does know how to have basic cooking skills, but he just said it's not important. But they don't get fed very much. There's a lot of missionaries and just not enough people to feed them. But he said one weekend he said someone in the ward gave us some frozen pizzas for dinner. It was so good. I found a really good rock, and we had a lot of good conversations and teaching moments. We read a good talk about becoming a consecrated missionary. I really liked it. Also, the microwave is broken and just doesn't heat up, even though it turns on and runs. We were teaching this one guy, and he was vaping and blowing the smoke in our faces. I was trying not to breathe it in. It smelled like cotton candy. We'll have to teach him the word of wisdom soon. So those are pretty typical little interactions he has. He mentions often just little bits about how by teaching and testifying, it's really grown his own testimony. He says, one thing that I love to see, he says, missionary work is awesome. It's been so cool to meet so many people and help so many come into Christ. Also, we are able to build so many good habits with the mission rules and standards. Highly recommend. So that always does your heart good as a mom. Because he was a little disappointed he can't lift more than 10 pounds. That's just a mission rule. So he's had to do a lot of body weight exercises. But he's learning that their rules are there for a reason and seeing value in that. So that was really great. Again, kind of the food thing, but there's a spiritual principle here that he shared. Here's one experience he had. He says, a miracle happened. So early in the day, we were at the library and a random guy offered us a bunch of food, and my companion said we didn't want any. And I was actually like, I do want some. Because they're not supposed to just take food from people. Then we went to Jack's, which is a Southern fast food restaurant, and some random guy offered to buy us dinner. And my companion said no again. And I didn't object, even though I really wanted food. So then I was actually really sad that he didn't let us get food. So I said a prayer. In the beginning of the prayer, I was like, man, I really wanted food and I'm sad about it. Then at the end of the prayer, I was like, you know what? It's okay. Please help me get over it and forgive my companion. So I mostly got over it. Then 2 minutes later, we hear someone honk in the drive-thru, and it was one of the new members we just baptized. And he offered to buy us food, which I said yes before my companion could say no. Also, before this, no one had ever offered to give us food or anything. So for it to happen 3 times in one day was insane. So that was a special day. He loves all the crazy bugs. If you follow his emails, pictures, you'll see lots of bugs because there's lots of interesting creatures down there. He often makes them pets. He's had Stuart the crawdad, and he's had a katydid. Um, so that's been something that has kept him entertained as they walk around a lot. I will say that the things that I've noticed about Luke since he's been out, it's been 5 months. One thing Ben pointed out as we're driving over here is that he was not someone who wanted to write. When he was young, he would write in his journal because his primary teacher encouraged that. And he actually also read the Book of Mormon and the entire Bible when he was in primary because his primary teacher encouraged that. You just never know as a teacher what kids will grasp onto and do. But you know, as he got older, he didn't like to write much of anything, let alone in his journal. But he told me just this week, I filled my missionary journal already. Need more. So that's been a great sign of wanting to keep those memories and thoughts and feelings that he has, which has been really, really awesome. One of my favorite emails was at Mother's Day. He sent me one of those beautiful I love you, Mom emails that wait for sometimes. And so that was really special. And I saw maturity and depth in him that I hadn't seen. Um, I will just say. So that was a real blessing, I think. And I really think serving others and focusing on Christ every day, that's one of the fruits of that. He has said that he is getting a lot more fulfillment in life. Um, oh, well, let me share this one. He said this week had a lot of miracles. It was super super busy, which is good. And he said it's just flying by. You know, he's almost at a quarter way through his mission and can't believe it. Which usually means you're busy, which is great. He says we met a lot of amazing people that have definitely been prepared to meet us. My testimony of prayer has also increased tremendously. Praying for all the people's names definitely helped. Um, but he's mentioned multiple times at how he has, as he testified, that has strengthened his own faith and testimony and understanding of the gospel. I happened to ask him a few days ago to share a few thoughts because I'm teaching Religious Society and I wanted to share something, but I'm going to share some of it here because this is kind of his own testimony. Um, He says, sharing the gospel has already grown my testimony so much more than I thought it could. There's a quote by somebody that says, if you don't have a firm testimony of something, just keep testifying about it and learning more. I've definitely been able to have more joy by sharing the gospel and just overall feeling fulfilled that I'm being able to make a difference. He says, even though I don't understand everything about early church history and Joseph Smith, I am confident he is a prophet. And I know that because I know the Book of Mormon is true. I've also wanted to, let's see, I also have been able to grow my desire to share the gospel with people as I learned that it's true for myself. Because I didn't really I really didn't want to share it before my mission. But now that I've seen the blessings of the gospel in my life, it makes me want to help other people out by sharing the opportunity to receive those blessings as well. And I think, considering he was just at home and straight out on the mission, there's a lot in life he hasn't experienced, of course, right? None of us do at that age. Um, and so to be able to go out and see all these different people and their different lifestyles and realize what blessings the gospel brought him, right? When you're just immersed in it as a child, growing up in your families, and you've grown up in the church, there's that point where you are all of a sudden seeing what it's like not to have the gospel in your life, and he's seen that a lot. And so I've seen that he's really grown his appreciation for the, the gospel principles and seeing how they work in people's lives. Um, so I'm just so grateful for the power of prayer as a mother to be able to rely on that and lean on that, because that's all you really have when your child is so far. But I love the weekly calls, and our oldest did not have that. He went out before the weekly calls, and what a game changer that is. It's so wonderful. And it's so wonderful to share with the whole family when they get on those calls, and they, we can all participate in their missionary work. We can hear the people they're teaching. We can pray for them. We can ask him more questions, and everybody can kind of participate in the mission with him and experience some of that together. And that's been a huge blessing, even more so than our middle daughter. For whatever reason, I think it's just become, I don't know what the difference is. Maybe because phones, I don't know. It's just been a more participatory experience for the whole family, for us, and it's really blessed us. And so I'm super grateful for that. And I testify that missionaries are doing great things. I think even the simple things they do, that moves a lot of people, takes people's garbage to the dump, whatever, it's a blessing to be able to put the good and the service out into the world that Christ wants to happen for his children. And so this is my testimony, and I say this
him 1032 look unto Christ, and Brother Philip Dick will offer us the benediction.
So I'm lucky enough to talk about both my boys, as I have twins, and my wife already kind of did hers with Jordan, and the bishop one time called her up for an audible. So otherwise, I'd only be doing half of that. But so Carson and Carter, Carson serving in the Morristown, New Jersey mission, and Carter's in the Alabama mission. Both aren't super good at the email. They started off really good and kind of hit and miss from there out. But we get to talk to them every week, so we do hear a lot of things. Kind of funny that they were about 6 weeks apart. Carson went first, and then Carter went in, and both boys have had people that were in Carson's time at the MTC are in Alabama, and vice versa. So they'll run into people. They'll be like, "Oh, I was in the MTC with you. I thought you were going to New Jersey or Alabama." So no, that's my twin because they look a lot alike. I actually have a hard time still telling them apart. But so that was kind of fun. So we'll start with Carson. He's had a few transfers. He's in a town now called Poughkeepsie, New York, kind of right on the Hudson River area. Kind of interesting. This first Sunday, he had to speak, and a lady after Sacrament came up to him and goes, "Are you related to the Longs in Forest Grove?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, pretty big family, so yeah, related." Started naming off a bunch of people, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, I know them, whatever." Well, it ended up being a cousin of mine. It was her best friend growing up. She's been to the reunions, knows all the Longs, so kind of shows what a really a small world it is. Um, he's been pretty lucky to have really good companions, which is really nice to have. When Carter was at the home MTC, it was interesting. Both boys kind of left, maybe not thinking they were ready, and I don't know if you would ever feel like you are ready, but felt like maybe they didn't know how to teach and whatever. And after Carson went to the MTC, and he was out in his area, and Carter was doing the home MTC, and Carter was kind of struggling, whatever. And to listen to Carson ramble, I was going to make it through this. All these scriptures and go. I mean, it was like he's been in the mission field for a year. It was so impressive to see how quick he was able to pick up what a missionary is and the scriptures and his knowledge. It was amazing, and I think it when we were kind of hoping the boys would kind of both go out at the same time, and I think they kind of were too. But having Carson go first kind of really helped. I think it really helped Carter really have a good experience in the MTC and kind of maybe help his nerves a little bit more. Um, so that was good. Sorry, reading my stuff here. I would say that um, the rejection of knocking on doors becomes very wearing on both of the boys. I think they kind of have struggled with that. I know Carson right now is working on an entire family, and he's so excited to hear the excitement in both boys when they could get somebody to commit and to be baptized. And it just shows the true love of what they're doing and sharing the gospel with what they love so much with somebody. Carson's working with an entire family right now, and I believe they're on calendar to be baptized in August. So he's so excited about that. Loves what he's doing, loves the people. He's had they woke up and the winter was pretty hard, quite a bit of snow. He hasn't. It was the little things, but most of the apartments he's lived in up until I think this one, They've had no washer and dryer, so everything's a laundromat, and or go to another missionary's house to do laundry. So that's kind of been a little bit different. He's every transfer they get to go to a temple. There's no temple in that area, so he's got to go to the Philadelphia one. They did sneak off, and he after the temple, they on the way home they took a detour, and he did climb the stairs like Rocky did. That was pretty fun for him. Um, and then he went to other one in I think Connecticut. Anyway, so that's been kind of neat that he's been able to see multiple different temples. So Carter is serving in the Birmingham. So we have a lot of family back in a town south of Birmingham called Addison. So I've been to Birmingham. So kind of thought it was neat that he was going to serve there once again, like Elder Knopp said. Carter said he wants to go anywhere except somewhere hot. He said he wakes up every morning. The second he leaves the house, he's wet until he gets back home and gets out of the shower. It is humid. I would say maybe miserable at some points. So that's been pretty hard for him. His first area is in a town called Bessemer, Alabama. So, so we have a brother-in-law that's been kind of struggling with life, I guess you could say. And he's from Bessemer. I've been to Bessemer. He's got a wonderful family back there. We love them. They're amazing. And his first area was Bessemer, and he was having a hard time leaving and stuff. So when he walked in, so my brother-in-law knew that he was going to be there, and he had kind of maybe fallen away from the church a little bit. Hadn't been to church since he'd been back there, and so he knew Carter was going to be there, so he came to church. First Sunday since he'd been back there. And also surprising to Carter and my brother-in-law is the mission president also came. So I guess that becomes a pretty big deal. Mission presidents don't just show up at a ward randomly. And he had no idea that Carter had family there, knew nothing about it. So before church started, he sees Carter over hugging somebody, but how do you know him? He goes, he's my brother-in-law. The mission president was very surprised that he had a brother-in-law, he had family there, and he goes, well, why do you think he's here? And he goes, well, probably to get my rear end back in church. And the mission president looked right at Marco and said, I would suggest that you follow that. He hasn't missed a Sunday since. So the small little miracles like that. He's also, once again, a small world. He's serving with another cousin of ours, kind of a distant. I guess he's not really a cousin. He's cousin married in, I guess, from Utah. And that was kind of neat to piece that together. His aunt or grandma, I think, has been in contact with my wife. They live in Beaverton area, and also Brother Chambers' grandson is actually serving in the same mission and in the same district as Carter has right now. But once again, seeing his excitement, so he's got a little two brothers that they're teaching right now. Actually, here in a few hours, are actually going to get baptized today. Carter's in a branch in a town called Clayton, Alabama. And they met these two brothers that I would say Satan has worked extremely hard on them. The one brother is having a toe, possibly a foot removed like any day. And then the other brother got bit by a venomous snake last week, was in the hospital and everything else. So Carter and his companion were able to give him a blessing. And he said after the blessing, both brothers were crying. And Carter had mentioned, do we need to postpone the baptism? I mean, you're going to have a foot cut off potentially. you just got bit by a mistake, and they said, no, we are going to be baptized because we need that. And how powerful, you know. So um, I just sometimes you don't recognize who these boys are anymore, which is a good thing. Um, you know, the it seems like the South is very hard to baptize and even to teach people because they're pretty deep rooted in the Southern Baptist. Carson's similar; they have a lot of Jewish community there. Very difficult areas. They as well don't get fed a lot, especially Carter in his last area in Bessemer. I would say it's kind of sad, maybe, but they got fed every week by an inactive member. The members just didn't sign up, didn't feed them. They struggled to get a lot of people to come to church because a lot of them don't drive back there. So that's been kind of a challenge for both of them, but it's always so fun to talk to them on Monday. I don't get as many opportunities as my wife does. I'm at work and depends on where I'm at. Sometimes it's not always convenient, but it is fun when we get all of them on the phone, and then our daughter's in Utah. We get her on the phone. It's so nice to have them all together and you know to see them all communicate, talk. Jordan can share her missionary stories. Sometimes she's a little bit harsh on them, but um, it's nice to have that and a blessing that it's been for our family and for Cindy and I to have them out. That's been good. So, anyways, say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. I think Brother Hank was a little worried when he realized that he put Steve and I on the stand together. He even said so. There's a lot of new families in the Word, and I thought I'd introduce myself. I'm Jason Rowley, not to be confused with my little brother Josh Rowley. Uh, I've been in this Word, our family's been in this Word since Tucker was 9, so I think 11 or so years. So I'm the OG Rowley that moved into this Word. So Tucker is serving in the Chicago, Illinois mission, and um, I'll try not to be too long-winded. I'm very proud of Tucker, and I have a lot of notes, and I'll try and condense it. But I'm just very proud of Tucker because um, I hate to admit, when he was going on his mission, um, I was a little concerned about what type of missionary he would be. He was very quiet growing up, so I was concerned. But he has turned out to be a force to be reckoned with. And it has been so fun to talk to him and watch him grow. And he's working super hard. Um, and he's just so cool. And I just love him. He's had really good companions. And he's loving Chicago, surprisingly. Ashley and I were a little worried that he was going to such a dangerous city, but he loves it there. Um, One of his favorite areas has been he served there for 7.5 months, I believe. It was the YSA, Young Single Adult Ward for Chicago, and it covered the entire city of Chicago. So he got to go anywhere in the whole city, um, and he got to teach a lot of younger people because there's 3 major colleges in Chicago. So he was teaching a lot of people his age, and he really enjoyed it there. He was a district leader there. He trained a new missionary there. Um, he's been out about 14 months, and it's really flown by for him and for us, and it's been fun talking to him every week. Um, he's working super hard. He's consistently finding 50 to 70 people a week, teaching them. He's having baptisms almost weekly. It's been incredible to watch. Um, and he's literally beaming and smiling every time we see him. And I know it's because he's working hard. Right now he's a zone leader, and exchanges, and he told us that half of his zone, there's some missionaries that are struggling with the desire to work. And so he goes on a lot of exchanges with them and buoys them up. And he says that they'll on average do like 3 to 5 contacts a week and teach people. But when Tucker goes and serves with the missionary, they'll find 20 people a day and have lessons with all of them and just fires them up. And he says it's so fun to watch those missionaries continue after that and be fired up. Couple funny stories. One time he was on a bike and him and his companion were just riding along, and someone pulled up a group of guys in a car, and one guy was leaning out the window and screaming at Tucker really horrible things about Mormons and just screaming at him, and Tucker just trying to ignore him. They rode up to the next stop sign, and they turned, went to a stop sign. The guy followed and stopped with them and continued yelling at Tucker. And Tucker just turned to him and said, "Would you like to go to church?" And the guy was so taken aback. They had a wonderful conversation after that, and the guy went to church. I just love that Tucker is bold and he can do that. His companion was like, "Wow, what were you thinking? That guy was screaming at us." He's like, "I was thinking he needs to hear the gospel too." Really badly. Another interesting thing happened to him in the city. They had to go to do their laundry at a laundromat every week, and as they were walking away with their clean laundry, a lady ran up and grabbed his bag and then started running down the street with his bag of clothes. And he was standing there dumbfounded and then just took off after her running and grabbed it back. He's like, "Those are mine." So that he thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting. One of the cool things I thought when he was serving in Chicago, he got to go to a park a lot. They like to do contacts at a park. And there was, I hope I get this story right, but there was a group of youth or teenagers or young adults that were doing some type of scavenger hunt, like activity type challenges, and they walked up to Tucker and his companion and challenged them to a push-up contest. And Tucker said, "I'll do a push-up contest with you, but if I win, you all get to listen to a message." And he said he smoked them. And they were all just, he's like, in his shirt and tie and suit and just smoked this kid with push-ups. And they just sat there and enjoyed a message from Tucker. So I thought that was really cool. Tucker, some of you might know Tucker has a gift of music, and he really talented on the piano. Not so much technically, but he can hear it. He can just feel and play the music beautifully. So he's played a lot of music on his mission. His mission president has discovered that, so he always gets asked to do musical numbers at zone conferences. But he also picked up his first companion gave him a guitar, and he just taught himself the guitar. And when he plays for us, we're blown away. He just can hear it and play it. And it's really fun to watch. He even wrote a song, and I want to finish up with the lyrics of that song, or he's kind of in the middle of writing a song, not one verse, but we're writing. I'd like to finish up with that. But one of the things I wanted to say first was Tucker had a really good example of his older brother showing him on a mission the miracles that happen when you work hard. Jeff was a phenomenal missionary in that work hard. Tucker has followed suit and is being good example to his younger brother Dallas. I love him for that. I love that he has grasped the gospel and wants to teach everyone and work real hard to make sure he's finding everyone that he's looking for. He had a lot of friends that went out on missions to follow, them as well with the help and stuff. And two of them are very
close and dear to him. And it's cool to watch how well they're doing as well. But one thing that comes to mind is when Alma and the Sons of Messiah were reunited after their, I think, 14-year mission. They were joyed to see that they were still brethren in the Lord. And I think Tucker, from watching what his friends are doing and what he's doing, he's going to have that same excitement for him. Okay, so just to wrap up his song lyrics, this is a song that he wrote. He plays it with guitar, and it's just beautiful. The way he sings it, I can't do it justice just by reading it, but I want to read it just to wrap up. And this is the first part is like us talking to God, and the last part is Christ talking back. Said, "Oh, where there's dark, you lit the flame. Where there was shame, you spoke my name. I am found. Oh, you whispered, you are mine, that I adore. Told me I am loved forevermore." This is where he gets into what Christ said. You are found. Here is how. I died on that cross. I rose from that grave. Took all your sins and I washed them away. Don't need to worry. Come unto me. Lay down your burdens and let your heart free. While you are wondering, just how to make it up, always remember best enough. I've already drank that bitter cup. Thanks for the first verse of let's reflect on